Let's start with a pledge of allegiance. You want to participate too? Right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance
to the
to the
flag
flag
of
the United States of
America and
and
to
the
the
republic
republic for which
for
it
which it
stands,
stands, one nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with
with liberty and
liberty and
justice.
justice for all. Perfect.
Thank you very much. Is Monica Ball on with us? She is going to do our invocation. So if we're not too far out of order, we'll wait for Monica come on and then come circle back to do our invocation. But of course, we're delighted to have everyone here today with us. And do we have any other special guests out there? I know we have Andy and John. It's good to see you.
Greta.
We have Loretta Turner.
Loretta's here. Good to see you. So let's bow our heads. I'm going to do just a brief invocation, and if Monica joins us, she can do a more inclusive one because I know that she puts a lot of care and thought into that. Dear Lord, thank you for this day in this beautiful city, and thank you for giving us such wonderful members to do your work in our community, and bless those who are less fortunate, that they may get through this holiday season this year, and that we might have a bright and healthy and happy 2021.
Amen.
In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Lauren, it's your time to shine.
All right, everyone, get ready. It's going to take a little while because you've heard this melody, I think, a couple times, but I'm going to get through it and it'll be excellent. The only thing I ask is that when we get to number 5, everyone, you'll catch on after a bit, but you could sing that line with me if you wouldn't mind. So, you ready? All right. On the first day of COVID, the virus brought to me a week of self-isolating. Good. On the second day of COVID, the virus brought to me a 2-meter gap and a week of self-isolating. On the third day of COVID, the virus brought to me 3 Zoom calls, a 2-meter gap, and a week of self-isolating. On the fourth day of COVID, the virus brought to me 4 toilet rolls, 3 Zoom calls, a 2-meter gap, and a week of self-isolating. Okay, guys, almost ready for you. On the 5th day of COVID, the virus brought to me 5 face masks, 4 toilet rolls, 3 calls, a 2-meter gap, and a week of self-isolating. On the 6th day of COVID, the virus brought to me 6 months of lockdown. Oh,
5 face masks,
4 toilet rolls, 3 Zoom calls, a 2-meter gap, and a week of self-isolating. On the 7th day of COVID, the virus brought to me 7 work from home days, 6 months of lockdown, 5
face masks,
4 toilet rolls, 3 Zoom calls, a 2-meter gap, and a week of self-isolating. On the 8th day of COVID, the virus brought to me 8 illegal gatherings, 7 work from home days, 6 months of lockdown,
5 face masks,
4 toilet rolls, 3 Zoom calls, a 2-meter gap, and a week of self-isolating. On the 9th day of COVID, the virus brought to me, oops, I already did 9, right? Oh, yeah, I'm back to 10. On the 10th day of COVID, the virus brought to me a 10 p.m. curfew, 9 weeks of furlough, 8 illegal gatherings, 7 work from home days, 6 months of lockdown, 5 face masks, 4 toilet rolls, 3 Zoom calls, a 2-meter gap, and a week of self-isolating. On the 11th day of COVID, the virus brought to me 11 bags of pasta. Whew. 10 p.m. curfew, 9 weeks of furlough, 8 illegal gatherings, 7 work from home, 6 months of lockdown, 5 face masks, 4 toilet rolls, 3 Zoom calls, 2-meter gap, and a week of self-isolating. Okay, bringing it home. On the 12th day of COVID, the virus brought to me 12 squirts of hand gel, 11 bags of pasta, 10 p.m. curfew, 9 weeks of furlough, 8 illegal gatherings, 7 work from home days, 6 months of lockdown, 5 face masks, 4 toilet rolls, 3 Zoom calls, a 2-meter gap, and a week of self-isolating.
Bravo.
Wow.
Lauren, that was fantastic. Thank you. I did record that because for the benefit of my family, because I think we'll try to reinvigorate that for Christmas morning. As my daughter in the background says, please be quiet, Dad, I'm on a Zoom call. Okay. Smile, you're on camera. This is Karina's moment where she likes to have everyone be aware of the fact that we are being recorded and it's going to Facebook Live. So if there's anything that you want to say, have your phone on mute unless you're the one speaking.
Yeah, no, that's all I wanted to just remind people that this is being recorded. So it's just our due diligence to make sure everyone knows that you're on screen and this will forever be on Facebook. So just be on your best behavior.
And we will be working our way into the presentation. Any total significance with Starlight Circle? Is this an event that we're doing, or is this just kind of a fun holiday look?
It's just a welcome. We're just welcoming our guests. This is a local spot in San Diego where you can go and see lights. So I was just bringing in a welcome sign from one of the local neighborhoods. You can go tour the lights.
Nice, and welcome to our guests. I know that we have Loretta and Andy and John. We haven't seen you in a while. Great to see you. Monica Ball's on with us now. Monica, do you want to do your invocation? I did a short prayer, but I was wondering if you did anything in addition to that you wanted to share. She's not quite on yet.
Hey, everybody.
Hi, Monica.
Okay, so let's invocate, shall we? Heavenly Father, thank you for this awesome Kiwanis Club. Thank you for the fellowship. Thank you for all the service work that you allow us to do for our community. Help us be mindful always of social justice, racial equity issues in our community and amongst each other and our fellow Kiwanians. Help us be the light in a world that has been suffering from an extensive amount of darkness with the COVID disease and social justice, racial equity issues. Help us go forward into an amazing holiday season, bring the gifts of joy, love, and laughter to everybody around us as we look forward into a new year of amazing Kiwanis service together in your service. And in your name, we say thank you for the opportunity to serve with you, and amen.
Amen. Thank you, Monica. I knew that you were going to bring 2020 to a closure in a prayerful way. And yes, we too are looking forward to 2021. So welcome to all of our guests. At this time, just wanted to give Carl the opportunity to introduce today's speaker. It's always a highlight of the year for me, at least. And Carl, if you'd like to introduce, please.
Sure, happy to do that. I'm pinch hitting today for Steve Morris, who came to the club via an introduction by our speaker today and my good friend, Andy Carey, who needs little introduction, but I'll do a little bit anyway. You saw some of it on the email that went out, but you know, Andy's been the executive director of the U.S.-Mexico Border Philanthropy Partnership since 2008, and he's really become a powerful and positive force on the border, working to make things better no matter how hard. And BPP is a binational membership organization with nearly 300 institutional members from the US and Mexico. They train hundreds of civic leaders and provide technical assistance, and really grow. He has grown a community of philanthropy across U.S. and Mexico, and from the Gulf of Mexico to the Pacific, and really an outstanding job. And but before that, he was, I think most of you know, he was very active in Kiwanis in a very big way. He served for 15 years at Kiwanis International as a member of the Executive Management Committee and responsible for leading growth initiatives, fundraising, and development programs throughout the Americas, Africa, Asia, Europe, and the South Pacific. And he led the Worldwide Service Project Initiative in Latin America to eliminate iodine deficiency. He's also done local Kiwanis work. Back in Indianapolis, was the past president of the Broad Ripple Kiwanis Group, and under his leadership, their group raised $150,000 or $100,000 to support important local projects that serve vulnerable youth. He's got a BA in political science and foreign language and a master's of arts degree in Latin American studies, both from Purdue, fluent in Spanish and Portuguese, and he's a great family man. And he and his wife Lisa are the parents of 4 children, Michael, John, Meredith, and Lauren. So with that, my pinch hitting role is over. Take it away, Andy. Glad to see you as always.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here again with all of you. I appreciate the kind invitation. I think in preparing for today, I discovered this is the 4th time I've come to chat with the Kiwanis Club of San Diego, and I'd like to just give a shout out to all of you. You know, I knew Harry Frails very well when he was the Kiwanis International Foundation president. I got to work very closely with him. Just a terrific fellow, and I know he was one of the original members of the Kiwanis Club of San Diego. And I also want to give a shout out to all of you because you are one of the most affluent clubs in the globe. Your Kiwanis Foundation actually gives away more money annually than Kiwanis International Foundation does in general support. So you should be very, very proud of that, as I know the organization is of all of you. And so today I was invited to do a brief presentation, although right now it's not letting me. I think somebody's playing with the Zoom meeting a little bit. So I have a brief presentation we're going to show. Karina, is that you? What happened?
Sorry, I think Sean is accidentally doing this, so let me just override him here.
No worries. While this gets caught up, I'll go ahead and share. You know, I was asked today by Steve,
there you go, Andy.
Thank you, to share with all of you what's been going on in philanthropy and the Borderlands with COVID, in the COVID pandemic. I loved Lauren's song about the 12 days of COVID. I think everybody is just over all of this, but I think, you know, what's truly amazing is the goodwill, the humanitarian response, and just the overall community that has been created because we're all in this together. And what I'm excited to share with you today is some really amazing efforts. And what we should be proud of as San Diegans is the role San Diego has played in the national response, because there's a lot of organizations and leaders right amongst us that are just doing some pretty remarkable things. And so as San Diegans, I think we can all be very proud of our community and of our leadership in the role we've all played. And so that's very, very exciting. And so what I'd like to share with you quickly is how our philanthropy has responded to the Borderlands. And what you should all see here on your screen is a map of the 2,000-mile border region. You can see there's 14 sister city relationships from San Diego, Tijuana, all the way over to Brownsville, Matamoros. And our organization at the Border Philanthropy Partnership has been tracking what's been going on, largely through our member network, but certainly tying those initiatives to what's happening at the national and the global level. As you know, the U.S.-Mexico Border Philanthropy Partnership is a member organization that supports over 336 organizations from academia, business and corporate partners, government agencies, nonprofit organizations, and grant-making foundations. that build prosperity through leadership, collaboration, and philanthropy in the border region. Since 2008, we've grown our board to include about 12 different leaders from both sides of the border. We have a staff team of 6.5 people. I don't know how you have a half person, but I think you understand somebody who's working for us half time. And these are people that are dispersed throughout the entire region. Our annual budget is $650,000. One of the services we provide is fiscal agency. Because we're legally incorporated in both sides of the border, this allows us to work uniquely in helping bring charitable gifts back and forth across the border. And that's been very, very important to us during the COVID pandemic, because we've been able to do some significant in-kind gifts, as well as some charitable gifts, financial gifts, to help organizations responding to the pandemic on both sides. Each year we're providing education and training to board and staff leaders, and with the groups we've done this year since March, we've had to move everything online just like everybody else, but our virtual presence has grown exponentially. We were one of the first organizations to do online training, if you can believe that, in Mexico. We actually taught a lot of the organizations in Mexico that are doing it today. They actually learned how to do it from us. And so we've been doing quite a bit of that, over 3,000 people just during the pandemic. But to date, over 16,000 have benefited from our education and training support. To date, we're headed into $6 million in fiscal agency contributions, which is important because that's generosity from the United States going into Mexico, and it's generosity from Mexico coming into the United States. And it's about 50-50. So when people think, oh, we have to help out our friends in Mexico, Mexico is helping out their friends in the United States just as much as we are helping our friends in Mexico. So it's a beautiful relationship. Each week or twice a month, we publish our newsletters that go out to over 2,000 people. If you're not signed up, I would encourage you to do so. We can keep you posted on all the great things that are happening. And there's been several mentions of the great work of the Kiwanis Club of San Diego. And after today, there will be another mention this week. And one of the things we're very proud about is the humanitarian response we've been able to support with $1.5 million in response to the migration crisis that's been going on in the region since 2018, that has been exacerbated by the pandemic. People wonder here in the Borderlands, why is the US-Mexico relationship so important? And it's important to have a context around that. And what I'd like to share with all of you today is there are over 35 million Mexican nationals that live here in the United States. In Mexico, more than any other country in the world, has over 50 diplomatic missions spread across our country. And you would think, oh, that must be one per state. They have, I think, 11 here in the state of California. They have 12 in Texas, and then the rest are scattered all over the country. There's several states that have a single operation, in one state that is responsible for 4 or 5 of those areas. And so they have quite a bit of work to do. The United States maintains 11 diplomatic posts across Mexico, our embassy in Mexico City, and then we have our consulates. We have several in the border cities: Tijuana, Nogales, Nuevo Laredo, Monterrey, Hermosillo. There's one in Cancun, down in Baja. So, there's quite a bit of presence. We also have over 1 million Americans that live in Mexico, people that started potentially as snowbirds, but have now retired and now are living in Mexico. We have several people here that are San Diegans that live on the other side of the border. It's cheap. You can have a beautiful home in Playas or a condo overlooking the ocean for a fraction of the cost that you could have that same view if you were living in La Jolla. Jobs in the economy are huge components of the US-Mexico relationship. Over 5 million US jobs depend on trade with Mexico. Just 2 years ago, I was in Flint, Michigan, dealing with the Charles Stewart Mott Foundation, and I was doing a presentation, much like I am with all of you now, talking about the humanitarian crisis in the Borderlands. And I was sharing with the Mott Foundation. Charles Stewart Mott, for those of you that are unfamiliar, started a very important foundation based in Flint. They've given away over $1 billion in charitable gifts. They have a corpus of over $3 billion. He was one of the original investors in General Motors, and he's turned his entire fortune, he's deceased now, over to a family foundation that has done just incredible work. And the reason I mention all that is because I was telling the Mott Foundation Board of Directors how important it is for the state of Michigan, where they live and work, and the role of the auto industry in the US-Mexico relationship. It's also very interesting because Charles Stewart Mott's first wife, Ruth, actually was a borderlander. She grew up in Ciudad Juarez in El Paso. And so those were all very important points for me as a grantee for their organization to be able to share with them to highlight that strong tie they have to our region, which helps justify the incredible philanthropic support they're providing to our region, largely through the Border Philanthropy Partnership. And finally, I will share with you that 26 states across the United States have their top trade partner is Mexico. Here in the US-Mexico borderlands, 1.2 million people cross the border every day. Now, since March, this is not the case. Hardly anybody's crossing. I don't know if you're aware, but the border has been closed to essential travel only. So what that means is if you are a Mexican national and do not have proper credentials to come into the United States, a work visa, a tourist visa, whatever that credential is, you're not allowed to come over and you've not been here since March. If you are a US citizen, you can certainly go into Mexico, but to get back, you have to demonstrate your proof of citizenship. So this is causing huge problems. The Chamber of Commerce down in San Isidro is working very hard in public policy advocacy to let the US government know and the Mexican government know that the border region shutdown is wreaking absolute havoc on the local economy and businesses are closing. And this is a huge, huge challenge. There's over 15 million of us that live in the borderlands. About 40% of the 15 million people live in the San Diego-Tijuana region, as we are the most populous component of the entire border region. And every day, not during COVID, but people are crossing to work, to study, to shop, to dine, to visit family, attend religious worship services, to seek medical care and tourism. And all of this is important when you consider that we are a single region. You know, today you asked me to come and talk with you about what philanthropy is doing. And before I get into what the specifics are that have been doing, I wanted to give you a little context of what philanthropy looks like and what the differences are between Mexico and the United States. You know, philanthropy is integral to the DNA of the United States of America, as you all know, and as the Kiwanis Club of San Diego, you guys are giving away lots and lots of very charitable and generous contributions each year. And I believe you're about to do that in just a couple of weeks again. Well, across our country, we have over 86,000 foundations that grant money. And we have over 1.56 million nonprofit organizations registered 501c3. Well, in Mexico, they only have 313 foundations, 313. We have twice as many foundations just in San Diego County with over 600 here locally than Mexico has in the entire country. So imagine that. And then the nonprofit organizations just under 40 or just a little over 47,000. So the size and scope is certainly different, but there was the charitable engagement is certainly remarkable in both countries. You know, here in the United States, we have done just terrific efforts to help promote philanthropy and to talk about what's happening in our region. Across the United States, community foundations alone have raised over $1.2 billion in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. So the donor advised funds like at the San Diego Foundation, the International Community Foundation, the Jewish Community Foundation here locally, they have done remarkable efforts to respond to philanthropy. And these affiliate foundations along and across the US-Mexico border region have raised over $120 million. Now think about this, the San Diego Foundation has raised over $52 million right here in our own community to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic. In their colleagues and friends in Arizona, the Arizona Community Foundation, just not too far to the east of us, they have raised $45 million. So when you add up the two efforts of those two foundations alone, you can see, plus the work of the other foundations along and across the region from San Diego all the way to Texas, you'll see that 10% of the efforts of community foundations all across the country, there's over 700 of them, but the 7 or so community foundations in the United States border region have raised 10% of that total. So the border region organization should be very proud of their incredible efforts. And San Diego is leading the way at the national level. The San Diego Foundation has raised more money for COVID than almost all other community foundations across the United States. So that's really a remarkable point for all of us. And I know as San Diegans that just is very, very exciting for us. And here you can see I'm highlighting some of the work that the different groups have done. I can share with you that the innovative response between the foundations, the public, private, and philanthropic sectors. So foundations working with corporations, as well as working with municipal, county, and state governments, as well as the federal government, has just been remarkable. In Arizona, we actually did the translations. They launched a program to do small business loans up to $25,000. And the United States Department of Agriculture just approved a $100 million grant to help improve conditions for water access to colonias down at the border impacted by COVID-19. And all these funds are going to be managed through the philanthropic sector, which is very, very exciting. You know, at the regional level, you can see San Diego Grantmakers is doing some innovative work with the Chambers of Commerce, the International Community Foundation. I'll talk a little bit more about them. Alliance Healthcare Foundation is working diligently. And I know Carl, our good friend who's with us today, he's been working closely with them and they've been out at the forefront. They're working diligently to help start a sister organization in the Imperial Valley. You know, that's so important to support health and wellness activities. And the Imperial Valley, Calexico, and Mexicali, this is a definite hotspot for the COVID pandemic for our country and our region. And it's right here, just about 100 miles to the east of us. And so these are some serious situations that need to be addressed. But you can see all these foundations: Conalma Health Foundation, the Community Foundation for Southern New Mexico, Santa Fe Community Foundation, El Paso, Paso del Norte, San Antonio Area Foundation, Laredo Area Community Foundation, and then all our partners in Mexico: Apoyemos a Tijuana, Cadenas, Red Comunitaria, FECHAC, FICOSEC. All these organizations are just doing remarkable work. And two of our important partners, the Montemayor Foundation and Tichi Munoz, have done just incredible work supporting FESAC and some others to provide incredible relief, because the $120 million that's been raised in the Borderlands has been raised on both sides of the border. I think Mexico represents about $2.5 million of that resource, which is rather remarkable. Here in the United States, people often ask, well, what is the money going to? So far to date, the resources that have been generated, that have been raised and granted out, have been helping nonprofits deliver food to the hungry, providing economic relief to the unemployed, providing medical equipment to first responders. And I'd like to take a minute to explain a little bit about the medical equipment to first responders. Here we are in December. You know, this pandemic started 9 months ago. You may not realize it, but our first responders are still waiting to get adequate personal protection equipment. My own wife works in a hospital laboratory here in San Diego County, and she had to sign a waiver to acknowledge that the hospital wasn't giving her the personal protection equipment she had to have to effectively do her job. You know, so we have, as a country, we have dropped the ball on at the government level to protect and to engage and provide leadership on this very important issue. And to be quite honest, so has Mexico. Both countries have failed in their federal leadership response. But what is impressive is the role of civil society, foundations, groups like Kiwanis, groups like Rotary, that have answered the call, that have come forward and have just done remarkable effort. In addition to this, they're providing daycare for essential workers, grants to small businesses in jeopardy of closure. And this is on top of the PPP loans that the government did provide, as well as many other organizations identified along and across the border region. In Mexico, the International Community Foundation, I'm highlighting this because they're based right here in San Diego. They're based in National City. They've granted almost $5 million to communities in Mexico and in Latin America, and almost $500,000 of that just went to Tijuana, right to the other side of the border. So this shows incredible generosity from our local community to support global initiatives. They're also supporting food security initiatives, medical equipment to first responders, and in-kind gifts of PPE. There's a donor based in San Diego that spent $3 million to purchase PPE to ship and distribute across 8 communities across the country of Mexico. Just remarkable generosity. Public health education campaigns, alerting people to the importance of measures you can take to prevent the spread of COVID-19, just like in the 12 Days of COVID song, wearing a mask, maintaining distance, washing your hands, self-isolation. These are all the things that have had to get out. It's important to understand that in the Mexico culture, self-isolation goes against the grain of everything they know about family, and there's multi-generations living together. And so these are very important measures. And so public health education campaigns are critically important to addressing this situation, as well as many other needs and identifies. So one of the things, what has the Border Philanthropy Partnership been doing? We stepped up to the plate immediately to check in with our members to find out, first and foremost, what is everybody doing? So we reached out and spoke to all 336 organizations that partner with us. And we've been tracking their contributions as well as informing it in our newsletter that we publish every 15 days. And so that's how we're able to track the contributions of over $120 million. Providing fiscal agency, we have a number of organizations where we just approved 2 more yesterday that we're going to provide support to. One is Tijuana Sin Hambre. They're going to battle hunger in Tijuana, and the other one is it's a tri-national initiative between the United States, Mexico, and Canada, and they're going to respond with personal protection equipment in El Paso and Ciudad Juarez, and that's in a situation that's going to invest immediately another $100,000 in medical support to the Paso del Norte region this week. So it's very, very exciting. We've received many charitable donations to support the COVID pandemic, money not for us, but for organizations fighting out on the front line. We've been doing all that we can to spread the word. One of the things we're very proud about is we were invited to do a briefing for the federal government just 2 months ago to the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA. So you know them as the organization that comes together when we have floods and fires and other natural disasters. And so we've been helping them connect the efforts they're doing to the Community Foundation network along and across the border region, which is very important because that has brought several $1 million in additional investment into the Borderlands that previously was not available to our region. And so we're very pleased about that briefing with the Department of Homeland Security, Health and Human Services, as well as the Environmental Protection Agency. You know, I already shared early on that Mexico maintains a very robust diplomatic presence across the country. And one of the things our organization does locally and nationally is we support the Mexican federal government to offer the Ventanilla de Salud program. The Ventanilla de Salud is a health and wellness outreach program to Mexican nationals. So when people go to the Mexican consulate in Little Italy, while they're there, we can kill them with kindness with health and wellness activities. We can give them a flu shot. We can do information about cancer screens. And recently, we just started a new partnership with the County of San Diego, where the Border Philanthropy Partnership and the consulate are providing free COVID-19 tests in the parking lot at the consulate every Monday from 8 in the morning until 3:30 in the afternoon. Last week, we had already done COVID tests for 2,500 people. So the number of people coming through to get this access to information is truly remarkable. One of the other things we've been able to do is also to help provide in-kind gifts. We partnered with the American Red Cross here in San Diego to take possession of all of the remaining disaster relief supplies that they had in storage held up in the state of Nevada that they had during the migration crisis in 2018. And they called me up and they said, Andy, would you please consider taking possession of all the remaining equipment? We need to close out our warehouse. So I immediately got on the horn with R.L. Jones Custom House Brokers, with the Consulate General of Mexico, with my friends at Cruz Roja in Tijuana, and with Cadenas de Ayuda. And I said, my friends, we have a huge opportunity to benefit a lot of people. We need to get 6 trailer loads full of relief supplies, including portable beds, hygiene kits, bath towels, blankets, into Mexico. And everybody agreed. It took us about a month and a half to make it happen, to get the approvals, to organize the shipping, to get everything stored properly, and to get it across the border. We got the first one done, and then they called me back a month later and they said, would you do it again? So we got everybody back on the call, and we said, look, we have another shipment to do. Would you help us? The second one was much more complicated because I didn't have anybody to help load the semis. My son, John, whose birthday is this week, he'll be 19, and his brother, Michael, who's 21, they're both students at Arizona State University. And as many of you know, when you work in the nonprofit sector, it becomes a family commitment. My son works at Home Depot and is trained to drive a forklift. So I said, son, you have a job to do this week. And so he helped me rent a forklift, and we met over by the airport, and we had to load the semi trucks ourselves to get everything ready for shipment. And what's very exciting is we were able to help our partners set up key mobile health clinics across Tijuana, Ensenada, Rosarito, Tecate, and Mexicali, benefiting over 16,000 people. And so we're very proud of that. And this is generosity that came from San Diego, which is very important for all of us. And to get it into Mexico is a gift on behalf of the American people. And so this is truly a remarkable situation. But I mention it because it's only possible because of all the people that are on this call today and our fellow San Diegans, and the spirit that we all feel. Right now we're in the holiday mode, but this is truly something that's part of the DNA of the American people to do good. And so through the Border Philanthropy Partnership, we were able to make an incredible contribution to support a lot of people in Mexico. And if you think the COVID situation here is bad, I can tell you that in Mexico, it is just out of control. The Archbishop of Tijuana is a very dear friend of mine, and I just got word that he's been recovering from a surgery that he had planned, and he now has COVID. And so it's getting into the leadership of important organizations and important institutions. It's affecting family. Somebody who works for me has already lost 5 family members from Tijuana to Mexicali, and none of them had pre-existing conditions. They were aged 28 to 42, and they are no longer of this world because of the COVID-19 pandemic. You know, I know a lot of people across the world think that it's a hoax, or some people said they're not taking it seriously, but I'm here to tell you that since March, my organization has taken this very seriously, and it is the real deal, and it is here. Some people have gotten it. My own son, my son John, who drove the forklift to help load the truck, he got it when he went to Arizona State, but he had a very light case. My wife is working at the hospital laboratory. She has not been tested, but continues to do well, working in a hospital environment, but they do evaluations of everybody coming in and out of the hospital all the time. So we still have some work to do, and anything that the Kiwanis Club of San Diego can do to support this pandemic is also going to be well received. The organizations you're supporting locally is one of the great ways you can support them. Keep doing what you're doing, because you're helping give them important resources and dollars to help them do amazing work here in our region. And so we want to thank you for your incredible generosity and for your time today. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have, but to give you just a quick snapshot, that is how philanthropy is responding to COVID-19 in the Borderlands, supporting important initiatives and people and organizations. And there's still more to do. So your willingness to be a part of that solution is most appreciated. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Andy. Truly, I mean, I speak for all the members when I say that we're truly humbled by the work that you do here in the border region. And so sorry for the loss of loved ones close to you. And anytime you need hands, we're all here for you. So if there's another truckload that comes in, definitely lean on us, for sure. Are there any questions out there? I think I don't see any on the chat, but if anybody would like to chime in and have any questions for Andy, please do so at this time.
Hey, Andy, this is Susan Day. I just want to say you are just a force. I'm just so impressed by your energy, your commitment, your super smarts. I'm just humbled to hear all of the great work that you're doing. And I just wanted to thank you from this side of the border.
Well, it's great to see you, Susan. And thank you for your kind words.
You're awesome. Thank you.
Andy, where do you see the lack coming in the first part of the year? Do you see any particular crises or anything new or any particular worries?
You know, I think there's a big unknown. There's going to be a new administration, and so that will represent a change. There's already reports coming out of Mexico, southern Mexico and Central America that perhaps with the departure of Mr. Trump, that perhaps the American government's view on migration may change. So there's a lot of people starting the trek northward. I don't know that that's true. I don't think it has anything to do with a change in government. I think it has to do with the situation on the ground for those people living in violence, dealing with climate change, dealing with malnutrition, and dealing with economic hardship. Those things have not changed for those people. So they're going to continue to come northward, and they've been coming northward for 300 years. So that's not going to change just because we change presidents. But what will be interesting is how the new American government will deal with it. They have appointed a gentleman from the Latino community to lead the Department of Homeland Security. He's from Los Angeles. He's a Cuban American. So he's very well thought of and very well respected. And so I think he will provide some interesting leadership around this. I think there's also some opportunities, Carl, to get the Border Health Commission refunded. During the Trump administration, one of the things, we're in the pandemic, and the Trump administration zeroed out the U.S.-Mexico Border Health Commission, which is a Borderlands-based government agency that deals with health planning, strategic issues around infectious disease in a binational context. So working collaboratively with the federal government of Mexico. And so I think getting the Border Health Commission back up and fully functioning, hopefully that'll be something that the Biden administration will take seriously. I believe they will. I think the Javier Becerra, the Attorney General from California, who's been nominated to be the new Secretary for Health and Human Services, I think he would be a supporter of that. This is an initiative that the Border Philanthropy Partnership is engaged in public policy advocacy on. We did our first trip to Washington, D.C. last year, right before the pandemic, where we pushed Congress to support more humane repatriation processes, medical lanes at all ports of entry to expedite the crossing of patients coming into the United States for medical care. And the last two that we pushed was protecting the charitable tax deduction and the census to make sure everybody's counted. The number of undocumented people living in the borderlands is significant. We want to make sure that we know who's here. And so we were very supportive of the Census Act. And so we asked Congress to help on all four of those issues, and well as working with the Hispanic caucus in Congress to encourage the collaborations around health initiatives. In the middle of a pandemic, we need the Center for Disease Control functioning fully. And one of the things the Border Philanthropy Partnership has been doing over the last 7 years, so long time ago, somebody at the CDC and the World Health Organization, they did an exotic staff retreat, I think somewhere in Hawaii, and somebody in Congress got upset about it. And so now they're not allowed to do any meetings. So for the past 7 years, the Border Philanthropy Partnership has been hosting their annual strategic sessions in our offices, where we bring them in to actually facilitate the binational planning on health issues between the US and Mexico. And so we hope to get some of those issues in those organizations fully functioning again, starting January 21.
What do you think, if I could ask one other question, is, when the Asylum Act, when it first started, it started with like one-off people that had really been persecuted and politically or otherwise. And now with conditions around the world being not so great in so many places, the volume of people that are seeking asylum could really become great. What do you think the ultimate solution to that is? Have you heard thoughts on that? I'm sure you have. And
I think the leaders of the G20 nations need to have a summit, because it's not just an issue that impacts the Americas, it impacts all areas of the globe. I think the big countries are going to have to figure out and have some unilateral supports that they put in place. You know, in Canada, with all due respect to our friends to the north, they get off easy because we take care of it largely because we have the force to be able to do so. But this is where these countries need to come together. They need to help each other, because just the one that's bordering that particular area where the people are coming in shouldn't have the sole responsibility to deal with this. And I think what really is going to need to happen is we need to potentially consider some direct foreign investment in these countries. We know where they're coming from. So creating and sustaining some stronger economic opportunity in their homelands is going to be important. And, you know, part of this, and I'm not trying to be controversial or political, but I've been working in this region for 30 years in the violence that is impacting the Spanish-speaking countries south of the United States is largely the fault of the United States for deporting people that were in our country. We set up the gangs in El Salvador and Honduras and Guatemala. Those people started here, and we put them back in what we considered their homeland, and were the nations they had no ties to, and there was not sufficient rule of law in place. And we basically let these poor countries try to figure it out. Well, it didn't happen. So we have an obligation, I think a moral obligation to be a part of the solution. And I'm not saying the United States should just simply pay for it, but we can provide some incredible leadership with other nations around the globe to come up with a better plan. And I think the new administration is going to have to address it. I think it's a great question, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Andy. And again, for all you do.
Appreciate your
Yeah,
support.
I echo those sentiments. Thank you, Andy. If there aren't any other questions for Andy, we'd like to thank him once again for joining us today, and continue to do great work in the border regions, and have a happy holidays to you and your family.
Thank you all. It's great to see you, and thank you for all you do for our community.
Great. Okay, we'll move on to another great guy, another great Kiwanian. In his memory, it's time for Bill's Bucks. Dear old Bill Gibbs, of course, the founder of Gibbs Air and Montgomery Field. And this is the time when fellow Kiwanians reach out and share happy or sad stories, and give a little back, just as Bill did every time, with usually a happy Bill buck. Anybody out there want to share today? Monica, I know you had a special piece for us today. You want to interject here on what your effort is during this holiday?
Hey, hang on one second, President Mike. I'm trying to get a full screen here. Okay, let's try this. I have it pulled up. Viewing options.
We see it, Monica.
You can see the Red Cow Challenge.
I sure can.
Okay, sweet. Full screen, there we go. Okay, awesome. All right, so in honor of Bill Gibbs, and being that Salvation Army's demands for their services have basically tripled during COVID, in conversation with my good buddy, Camille McKinney, who's one of their development services folks, and asking, you know, what's going to go on with Red Kettle Challenge this year, going virtual. And I suggested the possibility that we might host a Kiwanis Bill Gibbs virtual Red Kettle Challenge. So in conversation with fellow Kiwanian Brian Krause last week, he said, yes, let's do it. So we set up a Bill Gibbs virtual Red Kettle Challenge page on their peer-to-peer. And the website is there. I'll email it out so everybody has easy access. We signed up for a goal of $1,500. And just to test drive it, I put in a $100 donation. So you guys, this is super simple. All we need is 14 more Kiwanians to come to the table with a $100 donation, and we'll be there, or 28 fellow Kiwanians to come to the table with a $50 donation, and we'll be there. So I just thought that that was a good way to remember Bill. And, you know, we're not getting to have a holiday parties such as we normally would ourselves, and help out the Salvation Army, who's always been, you know, such a close ally of our club. I don't want to let that relationship slip just because Mr. Gibbs is not amongst us here in the earthly realm any longer. So I'll email
Well,
that.
it looks great, Monica. I just logged in because Karina shared the link in the chat bar, and it does look super simple. It's super intuitive. I'm actually working through the login right now, and it seems like it's going to be very easy for Kiwanis members to participate.
Oh yes, super easy. And you know, there are not a lot of teams signed up. So, you know, I would suggest that they probably are a bit overwhelmed administratively themselves in trying to execute this. So I'm seeing Major Lascano on there as the other team that seems to be actually being productive. He's back in town, by the way. You know, remember he had gone for a while, and he's back, assigned back to our region again, which is great. I love him. And so, you know, they've got a lot of shuffling happening within the ranks of the Salvation Army themselves right now, but the demand for their services has just been extreme, as it is for all social service agencies right now. So I think this is tis the season for giving to the Salvation Army. So let's do our part, and everybody put a couple bucks in the virtual red kettle.
All right, Monica, thank you for that. You can count on me for participation.
Sweet.
And Heather just chimed in on the chat that she will donate some as well. So thank you for that, Heather.
Love you, you little elf.
Any other happy, sad dollars to share during this time as we wrap up Bill's Box?
Well, in the interest of our speaker today, I think I've shared this with in the past, but the Antes kicked up with a group that Andy mentioned that I've been working with. We've now raised $850,000 for COVID relief in Imperial County, which, as he mentioned, was a really hard hit. So we're quite proud of that. And additionally, there's been a lot of PPE that's come through that group too. So the Imperial Valley Wellness Foundation, in conjunction with Alliance Healthcare Foundation. So that's been an honor to be on that team and helping bring some relief to those folks. So I'll kick in.
That is good news.
I'll kick in $10 just for the good of the order on that.
Good man. Thank you, Carl. Yeah, I think I heard on the national news last week that the El Centro Regional Medical Center was completely overwhelmed, and I was blown away to hear you know, hospital system close to home suffering so greatly, and all the people there in Imperial County. So
yeah, you'd be amazed if you learned that I could tell you the how few physicians there are in the Imperial Valley relative to the population, and very few specialists as well. I mean, people drive to San Diego to get specialist care, to get dental care even sometimes, and it's pretty amazing for those of us here in San Diego that are blessed with a plethora of healthcare professionals everywhere we look, and it's pretty astonishing.
thank you. A shout out to Glenn there. He just put in the chat he's going to donate $50 to the Kettlebell Challenge. So thanks for that, Glenn.
I'm filling out the form right now online.
Good man. Good man.
Awesome.
Multitasking that goes on during these meetings. All right.
Okay, thank you, Karina. Yeah, can move it forward.
So I just wanted to take us down a little memory lane. I figured why not resurface some of our old pictures. You know, since we can't all meet together, we might as well remind the times of when we could. So every year we used to have an annual dinner at Monarch School. And this is pictured Santa Sigurdsson here. Joe dressed up as Santa for us, and we had a lot of fun helping Monarch School. Every holiday we'd give out gift cards, but you know, we'll continue our support with them. In 2013, we had a party at the new Children's Museum, which was a lot of fun and was probably our first big party, I would say. In 2014, we met at the MCRD, and if you see Ryan Callen there, he's actually holding a bottle of wine with Brian Krause's face on it. So, you know, we had a lot of fun then, lots of good prizes, and I think we had salsa lessons and all sorts of fun things that happened at that party in 2014. 2015, I don't know what we did because I was out of town. So, and that would be nice if people would take pictures at our events, because if I'm not there, then no pictures get taken. So future events, make sure everyone starts taking some pictures. But 2016, we went down to Chris Joseph's place, which was the recreated 98 bottles. Had a lot of fun. Jarabe Mexicano actually played. And if you see, there's a picture of Ryan and Judy getting down to the salsa music that was happening. So we had a lot of fun at that event. It was the last time I ever saw Charlie Caicos. So that was like a great memory to see these pictures of him, and just loved having them there. 2017, we met in Liberty Station, and as you can see, I'm a big fan of props. We had the whole Callan clan there. Jay brought a really wonderful ugly sweater. It was the last social that I had Charlie at, so it was great to see him, and Carl and Heather always come into play. So it was a great 2017. And then 2018, we met again at the New Children's Museum, and we also had the Key Club do their takeover at Christmas time last year when we were still meeting at Admiral Baker, the good old days, I should say. So that's our, oh, and then 2019, we also did it again at New Children's Museum because they do their holiday parties really well, and it's just great to support our organization. Alexandra is our representative from there, and we had a great time this year. The robot even was saying like, welcome Kiwanis, which was tripping all of us out that it could actually talk to us and knew who we were. So good times last year. And as you can see, I use the same sweater every year. So don't call me out on that. I've been wearing the same one for 12 years. So if anyone wants to donate any old ugly sweaters, I will take them.
Great trip down memory lane. Thank you, Karina.
Speaking of, so we have our attendance leaderboard going. So right now, our luncheon leaderboard, we have perfect attendance up, and this doesn't include today. The top 4 were perfect attendees were Doug Frost, Judy Leitner, Sean McArdle, and Steve Morris. For our social, as of last Friday, Tom Bauer, Doug Frost, Sean McArdle, and Steve Morris. So our VIPs, perfect attendance are those 4, and honorary, of course, are Mike, Lauren, and I, who will just always have to be here to entertain you all. So we're just honorary VIPs here. And our top socialites, again, are Tom, Doug, Sean, and Steve. But as of today, I think we're going to have Steve Morris is currently in the running for Member of the Year because Doug and him have been tied, and Doug is not here today. So Steve, you're really shaping up to be Member of the Year, and you guys better give him a run for the money. So we'll start fresh in 2020 run. I just wanted to recap our socials last week. I don't know if we have a show of hands of who attended the Voices for Our City. I know I did and cried my eyes out because it was such a well done virtual event. Even Todd Gloria was on it doing a little piece, which I figured if he can do their event, hopefully he'll do our Laurels event come February. And then last Friday, we did a virtual tasting with You and Yours Distillery, and we had one of their distillers actually on and give us a very informative from A to Z on how they distill their vodka and gins. And I know I learned a lot. We had a lot of fun, a lot of laughs. Watching Lauren trying to take down this hard alcohol in a turtleneck was probably the highlight of my night. But yeah, so we will have more virtual tastings come 2021, and be sure to check those out because it's a great way to support our local businesses that, you know, are really struggling during this time.
Awesome rundown, Karina.
For 2021, our first luncheon is January 5th, and we just confirmed a wonderful speaker from the organization Traveling Stories that's going to give us a great breakdown of what their organization does and how they help literacy with children. On the 14th, this will be my last free trivia night. After January, I'm going to start charging people because, you know, I put a lot of work and energy into these, and we should start raising some funds for the club. So the last freebie is going to be on January 14th. Sign up on the website. And then our other luncheon in January is going to be Junior Achievement on the 19th, the third Tuesday. And then lastly, save the date. Laurels for Leaders is February 23rd, but the only way that you can attend is if you join the first edition charter member Laurels Society. So be sure if you want to join the society. Otherwise, we're still taking donations. We have a new Laurels website, and I'll send all of the links to all of these events in a second. Just a reminder, Lauren, if you want to chime in about the invoices.
Sure. So just a few minutes ago when we were going through the funds or happy dollars, when you say that, then I go online and I invoice you for that amount. Some people go, hey, I'll mail it, and they do. But if you've indicated that you wanted to pay something towards something else during one of our meetings, you have an invoice online. So you might check it because you might have forgotten, oh yeah, that was 3 meetings ago. Oh, I haven't been here since then. And I forgot to check online. I have $10 still sitting on my account. So I encourage you to check out your accounts. I'm going to go through probably here in the next day or two and send everyone those invoices again, just in case there is an issue and you're not logging into your account. But that's how we recoup some of the money that we are raising during our meetings with these donations. So, and if you need help, just email the Kiwanis account or personally, and we'll get you all squared away and work on it.
Thank you, Lauren.
Okay, it's our annual dog time. So get your guesses ready. I think this one's going to be very obvious, but if it's not, we'll see. So, and I'm even giving you a hint because I'm being nice and jolly today.
Let the dogs out!
Hey, well, can I say, well, I can't even see me anymore. Can you get me back in the picture, or?
We can hear you, Sean. What do you have to say?
I have to do what?
We can hear you. What's going on?
I don't know. Start my video. We're back. All I want to say is it's been a lovely gathering that we have in an otherwise unfortunate year. That we stick together and roll on with our good work, and that we will probably do that next year. And although I seem to be getting on the down slope here, I'd like to help out wherever I can.
Thank you for that, Sean. And do you have a guess for whose dog this is? We're going to give you the first shot at it.
Say again?
Do you have a guess of which Kiwanis member this dog is? We're going to give you the first shot to guess whose dog this is.
Whose dog it is? I didn't understand.
DOG, the dog that's on the screen. Who does it belong to?
Looks familiar. I've seen those antlers before, but otherwise.
It looks like Heather guessed in the chat and she got it right. It is Ryan Callen. That is they tend to have a lot of fun with the costumes. So pictured on the left is Parker, who is much older than that now. So he does not look anything like that. But that's a pretty recent picture of Ethan on the side. And again, that's Murphy, who is a legend with a lot of the Kiwanians. So had to bring him in because I'm sorry, this is just too good of a picture to not put for the holidays. So thanks.
What an incredible pack of hounds.
All right, we are kind of over the hour, Mike. So I'm thinking that we'll skip trivia for today and maybe just close out the meeting since we're already over the 1 o'clock hour.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for putting together the presentation, Karina. Again, Andy, if you're still on, thank you so much for all of the work that you do. Kiwanians, love you. Have a happy holiday. We'll see you next month. Bye, Sean.